Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make these cute little felt donuts using your Krafty Khoo kit set. These are so fun and easy to make. They can be little decorations, gifts or toys or however you want to use them. If you are brand new to sewing, I do have some tutorial videos on how to sew the basic stitches you need for the donut. You can find the links to these videos in the description below. Now let's get started. First, let's get our creative juices flowing by decorating our frosting. We will be using embroidery thread to create the cute sprinkles. So grab your piece of frosting and cut about 50 centimeters of the first color thread you want to use. You will notice with embroidery thread, it is a lot thicker than normal sewing thread. Embroidery thread is made up of multiple strands. And what we will be needing is 3 strands for the frosting. You can use more or less strands depending on the thickness of the frosting you need. Now remember, when you are using embroidery thread, separate the strands 1 strand at a time. If you try and do multiple strands at a time, it will get knotted. So now I have 3 strands. Next, let's thread our needle. The more strands you have, the harder it will be to thread your needle. You can always use the needle threader provided if you're struggling to thread. Don't forget to tie a knot at the end of your thread so the thread doesn't pull through. Right, let's start making our first sprinkle. So first of all, poke your needle up through the back of your frosting, anywhere you would like. Pull through, so then your knot is at the back. Make a small straight stitch in any direction you want and any length. This forms your first sprinkle. And pull. Continue sewing as many sprinkles as you want by pushing the needle up through the back and down again. And essentially we're just making multiple straight stitches. I'm doing it randomly, but you might decide that you want a certain pattern depending on the color thread you have. I like to do different angles so it replicates real sprinkles when you sprinkle those hundreds and thousands in different colors, that they do scatter in different directions. Continue going around your frosting circle. Now, do not worry if the back of your frosting looks a bit chaotic, as this side will be hidden. So just keep going around the edge. Now once you've done as many sprinkles as you need for your first colour, don't forget to tie it off at the back. And then we will cut off. And here we have our first set of sprinkles. Continue this process with the other embroidery thread colours that you want, and you can do as many or as little sprinkles as you need. And I'll see you at the next step. Now you've sewn on all of your sprinkles, we will sew the frosting to the top layer of your donut. So grab one of your rings and then place your felt piece on top of the top layer of the donut so that the circles match in the center. Next, grab your pins and pin the frosting to that top layer of the donut. Next, Grab the embroidery thread that matches the colour of your frosting. In my case, I've got purple frosting, so I'm going to use matching purple thread. Separate 2 strands of your embroidery thread, thread your needle and tie a knot, and we will begin sewing the outer edge of the frosting to the top layer of the donut. Push your needle up through the back of the donut and just on the inside edge of the frosting and pull through. Poke your needle back down, but this time just on the outside of the edge of the frosting, so it's just through one layer, and pull. So we can see that we've just created one stitch there. Now we're going to do this multiple times around the edge of the frosting, and we're going to evenly space the stitches around. So up through 2 layers and down through 1 layer. Poke your needle up through both layers, pull, and back down just on the outer edge, just through the top layer of the donut, and pull through. So you can see I've formed 3 stitches here, attaching the frosting to the donut. Continue doing this all around the edge of your frosting to secure it in place. When you reach the end, tie a knot and cut off your thread. If you run out of thread, just tie a knot, cut it off, and then grab another piece of thread and continue going around the edge. And I will meet you at the next step. Now we will sew our donut pieces together. So lay your frosted donut piece that you've just sewn the frosting to on top of your second donut ring. Pin these pieces together to hold them in place. We're going to be sewing the inner circle first. So get your matching colour thread to your frosting, in my case purple. You will need 2 strands. Don't forget to tie a knot at the end once you've threaded your needle. Bring your needle up through between the 2 layers of donut. Now this is to hide your knot. So pull your needle through the top layers, and you'll have your thread up here first. Now what we're going to do is a blanket stitch. Now a blanket stitch is a great way to create a really pretty edge on different items, including felt toys, but it was traditionally used on the edges of blankets, hence the name. If you are unsure on how to do a blanket stitch, I do have a tutorial link to the video in the description below, so check that out first. Now we want to make sure the blanket stitch is consistent and tidy around the edge. Now continue the blanket stitch all around the inner edge, and I will again meet you at the next step. So now we've finished our blanket stitch in the inner circle of the donut. What we're going to do is finish it off by doing a blanket stitch around the outer edge of the donut, as well as stuffing it. In terms of stuffing, there are a couple of options you can do. You can stuff as you go, or you can wait until the end by leaving a little gap and then stuffing your donut. You can always use a chopstick or a pen or a pencil to help push the stuffing around evenly throughout your donut. Now grab your matching colour thread to your donut. Mine is a beige colour. Thread your needle, tie a knot. I've got about 60 centimetre length of thread to help me get around the circle. Now what we'll do, like before, is hide the knot in between the two layers. So poke your needle up through the first layer so your knot is behind. And now I can begin my blanket stitch. This bit might be slightly tricky as you're going to be holding the donut pieces together while it is stuffed. So I've just got a few more blanket stitches to complete my donut. And there we go, I have finished my blanket stitch. So the final piece is to tie a small knot. So I'm just going to wrap it around the thread around my needle here to create a little knot. And I'm going to poke my needle straight back in through the donut and out and tug slightly, so then the knot will be hidden. Let's cut off our thread. And here we have it. We have now completed our very first felt donut. Now, if you are wanting to use the donut as a little hanging decoration, you can always add a tab or a ribbon as a little hanging tab to use as a decoration. And there you have your felt donut.